print-on-demand startup costs, monthly expenses, selling internationally, mockups, samples, and more are all on deck in this special Q&A episode of the PODP podcast. Hang out with us as we answer your questions and sprinkle in some valuable nuggets along the way. My name is Kerry Egler, here with my co-host Adrian, and welcome to the Print-on-Demand Playbook podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Really excited for this episode today because Adrian and myself are going to be answering some submitted listener questions. So these are questions we've gotten from you guys out there listening, and we're really excited to engage with you a little bit more and hopefully help you along your journey. And so we selected some questions that I think will really help a lot of listeners out there, a lot of things that, just a lot of people typically struggle with. So I'm pumped to jump into that. But before I do, Adrian, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm happy we're doing this episode. This is long overdue. I mean, we have so many amazing listeners, and we get asked quite a few questions, DM, email. I feel like actually most of them are coming through DMs these days, which is cool because it's really easy to answer them. But, we love helping people out. Like, our goal is to get more people, to empower more people to become entrepreneurs and unlock more freedom in their lives. And we don't gatekeep. We don't hold back. We don't want to hold back. We never have. We never will. Like, there's no holding back here. And so it's always fun to do these episodes where we can just get actual listener questions and just knock them out. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm getting most of the questions too, is in the Instagram DMs. And usually, we're gonna hopefully get back to you in those DMs. And so we're just, some of these questions or hopefully all these questions we've actually answered directly with the person, but I wanted to pull them on the podcast because I thought they provide some value to the entire audience. So if you do want to ask us a question, like, we want to hear from you. We invite you to jump into our DMs. I was going to mention this at the end, but I'll just mention it right now. I'm Kerry Egler on Instagram. Adrian, you are at Ecom Legends Academy.
Correct.
So Ecom Legends Academy, Kerry Egler on Instagram. Go follow us. Go shoot us a DM, even if you just want to say hey. But if you got a question, we would love to hear from you.
Dude, I love hearing from listeners.
Yeah,
it's so cool because we're here right now, just you and I. We're recording, and sometimes it feels like no one's listening, but then when we hear from listeners, it's just a really cool feeling because it's like, oh, everything we say, like, people are actually hearing this, and a lot of people are actually taking action. And that's one of, like, the coolest things to hear about. But I'm with you, Kerry, even just DMing us to say, what's up? How's it going? Like, ask us questions. I try to get back to all my DMs. Yeah,
we appreciate you. And speaking of, like, amazing listeners, I want to read our 5-star Apple podcast review of the week. And man, this is a really good one. So thank you, listeners. We love this. This is a really good one. Lynn in Sweden, our Swedish friend. She says, "What can I say? Adrian and Kerry, you two are my greatest inspiration and the reason why I managed to keep going with this POD stuff, even with its ups and downs. You give me hope, provide me with knowledge, and with your warmth and sense of humor, it's like I'm plugging into a phone call with my two besties every time I put an episode on. Thank you for spreading your knowledge to the world. Cheers from your Swedish gal in Spain."
Man,
Lynn,
dude,
what can we say to that? That's
I think I got goosebumps. So nice. I think I got goosebumps from that message.
Very well said.
Plugging in with your friends, like, that's what we want. Like, we want you to feel like you're part of the conversation. We're here talk about print on demand, something that you're passionate about, most likely, or you're at least interested in. And we're having conversations about it every week. And we want you to be part of the conversation. So it's a huge compliment. And, like, I like how she mentioned, there's ups and downs. There's always going to be ups and downs. That's never going to change. That's part of the entrepreneurial journey. And that's what discourages a lot of people and gets them to quit. But it's the people that realize, like, there's always going to be ups and downs. I'm going to ride it out no matter what. Those are the people that keep going. And the people that keep going generally are the people that see the most success. So really cool, just all around message. Thank you, Lynn in Sweden. We've been in Sweden too. Like, I was in Sweden last summer. You were in Sweden, right? Recently,
I did not get to go to Sweden. I was in Norway. So, like, right next door.
Okay, close.
Right next door. But yeah, I
Close.
haven't been to
Love
Sweden.
Sweden.
But man, Lynn, if you haven't jumped in our DMs, like jump in the DMs and say, hey, like I just love to hear from you. And I really appreciate this review. Very, very kind of you for those words. So we very much appreciate you. And if you want to leave us a review, please, we encourage it. We love to read your review on the podcast here. We literally just kind of go through the list and just pull them one by one. And so we're slowly working our way through them. And we just appreciate all you guys listening. So with that, I want to get into your questions. Really good questions here. And I think these are going to spark some really good conversation. So, just to give you kind of a preview, if you're listening right now and you're like, do I want to listen to all these questions? Let me give you a quick preview of kind of the things that are just kind of included in these questions that I think will apply to a lot of people. So, we're going to talk about social media following, building a social media following. I think that's something, I mean, anybody can learn from. Like, I know I learned from you like all the time, as much as we're, we are on Zoom calls and class. Like I learn from Adrian all the time. So like any of us can learn more about building our social media following. We're going to talk about POD startup costs, like monthly costs that come with managing a POD, time frames to kind of have success. What does that look like? We're going to talk about partnering with other brands, mockups, which is always a fun conversation. We're going to talk about selling internationally, and we're going to talk about samples. Like, should you order samples, and what does that look like, and that kind of thing. So, lots of good things in here. So, let's start with the first question. Adrian, you ready?
Let's go.
All right. Well, I'm going to read the question, and then we'll just kind of give some thoughts from there. We're kind of just offering candid information here. This isn't like scripted. We really just want to give you our thoughts and opinions, and maybe we'll even disagree on some stuff. Sometimes we disagree, and that's okay.
That's true.
Here we go. Yeah. So question number 1 says, hi, Kerry, huge fan. Thank you. Again, absolutely love the podcast and listen every week. And they said, I'm struggling with social media. I feel like my designs are solid, but I'm struggling to build any kind of following when it comes to posting non-merch related content. I can't seem to break 40 followers. So this listener, first of all, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your kind words. Mm-hmm. Just struggling to build a following on social media. This is going to be a really good conversation. I already know. And this is something that I think we see a lot is people, I think when you're starting, you have to be on social media to sell, right? Like, right. It's just that where we're at, like social media is the primary way to sell your apparel or most kinds of different businesses. Like you have to have a social media presence, even if you're using other channels to sell, like SEO based channels like Google or Etsy or these different places, or whatever. You still have to be on social media, and that's for most people, it's the primary way to sell, and it's what we both recommend as a primary kind of organic sales channel. And then even with paid ads, we recommend paid ads on social media. So a lot of people go into it and they don't really know what to post. And so they just end up posting their products. And the saying I always go back to that I really like to tell people is that people love to buy, but they don't like to be sold to. So when they go to a social media account for a brand and it's just all sales posts, it's all products, even if they like the products, it just feels disingenuous. There's not a connection made there. There's not any entertainment. There's not any relatability. Like it's just like, oh, you're just selling. I don't want to be sold to. But as we know, like people love to buy, right? Like we love buying cool products with brands that we connect with and that we resonate with. So the question here, how do we start to build that loyal following on social media? And I've got a bunch of good ideas, but Adrian, I'd love to go to you and get your thoughts on this question as we get started.
Dude, this is such a loaded question. I did an entire episode dedicated to Instagram growth strategies, and I'm trying to find that episode because it was like just a straight hour of talking about Instagram.
I show it's episode 72.
Yes. That is correct.
Instagram growth strategies for your POD business, episode 72.
Yeah. So it's going to be really hard to like keep this really, really brief.
You can do it.
I want to give you all the value I can give you within a couple of minutes. So when it comes to Instagram growth, there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. So it sounds like you're having a content problem, like you're having trouble putting out content that's actually attracting your ideal customer and turning them into followers. And the great thing about that is you want to build up a following of raving fans that you can then convert into a customer, right? So I have this ABC framework: attract, build, convert. So what you want to do is first you want to attract your ideal customer, and like there's so I could do a whole episode about this.
You did.
How do I summarize this? So to attract your ideal customer, the first thing I'll say is all of your content and all of your product posts, everything you post on social media should be very one-dimensional in the sense of your niche. Like, make it all about your niche. Essentially, what you're trying to do is you're trying to train the Instagram algorithm to know who to best put your content in front of, based on their interests, so that they are getting recommended your content and they're seeing it over and over. And if they don't follow you the first time because they're like, oh man, this is such a cool page, it's all about my passion. Let's say pickleball, right? Mm-hmm. All they post about is pickleball, and I'm super passionate about pickleball. Of course, I want to follow this page, right? So one thing that I see, a couple mistakes that I see are people post like really random assortments of content, and it's very confusing for the algorithm to know who to feed it to, because if one post is about pickleball and one post is about Christianity and another one's about soccer and another one's about patriotism, it's like it's giving mixed signals, and it makes it very unclear. And so it'll show people, and then some people like one post, then it'll show them more of your posts, and they're totally random and not at all related to what they liked. And then they don't interact, and then it determines it is low quality, and it doesn't keep pushing it out to people, right? So the ABC framework, you want to attract your ideal customer by putting all content and products in relation to your particular niche. Then you want to build up your following by continuing to nurture your audience. So keep giving them value around that niche. And then the C is convert. Eventually, you want to build up this following of raving fans. You want to continue providing them value, entertain, educate, or inspire them all around this one niche. And eventually, a lot of them, they will buy from you because, one, you're going to have products that are really relevant to them. Your products are probably going to be awesome as you start learning what they like, and they're going to want to support you. People love supporting small businesses, especially ones that they feel like were made for them, right? So that's the attract, build, convert in like just a couple of minutes. The other thing I want to say is when it comes to content, I just want to quickly tell you kind of there's really only three types of content. There's content to grow, there's content to build your brand, and there's content to monetize. So when it comes to content to grow, this is the content that you want being recommended to your ideal customer. And this is viral style content. And one of the best things you can do to get viral style content to start going viral in your niche is research other creators, other accounts, other competitors in your niche, find their most viral style content, and then find a way to repurpose that content. So maybe it's recreating it in your own way. Maybe it's resharing it and giving them credit. There's a lot of creative ways that you can use to repurpose the most viral style content, because if you're in pickleball, I'm just using pickleball. If you're in pickleball, I love that
you're using my examples now. This is great.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a popular sport. It's a great sport. And
go back to cats. You used to always do cats. Now you're on pickleball. Get off my pickleball. Go back to cats.
You want me to go back to cats? I can go back to cats,
please.
Pickleball and cat lovers. How about that? Pickleball players and cat lovers. That's a niche. Okay, but back to pickleball. So if you have a list of really, really popular accounts in the pickleball niche, this is what you can assume in most cases, is that your ideal customer is hanging out on those accounts because it's all about pickleball, just like your brand being all about pickleball, right? And so those are the accounts that you want to follow and you want to interact with, but you also want to research. You want to look at their most viral style content and then find out what is going viral with their followers who are also should be your followers. Like, it's the same target audience, right? So that's the That's the content to grow. You want to create viral style content. It's mainly reels right now in 2024. That's just the easiest way to go viral. And you want to create viral style content to have the algorithm recommend your content to your ideal customer. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about this is the goal should not to be just to go viral. It should be to go viral within your audience. And I would rather go viral to 10,000 pickleball lovers than a million totally random people who don't care about pickleball at all. So you have to be very careful, because this strategy can actually backfire on you if you go super viral with a random audience who doesn't care about your brand or why you exist. So that's the first thing, content to grow. Second is content to build your brand. This is content that you're going to post to nurture your existing followers. So once you get followers, you don't always just want the content to grow, the viral content. You actually want content to nurture them. This is where you can do things like carousels. I don't know, for pickleball, what you'd have in a carousel. Maybe you have like pickleball tips or some sort of value for people that they're actually going to really like, but it might not go viral, right? But it's going to either entertain, educate, or inspire your existing followers. And then third is content to monetize. This is where you do post your products. And if you can post your products in very attractive ways that don't just look like an ad, then you're probably gonna have more success. Like, let's say you were the content creator for your brand. If you were giving tips, or if you were mouthing a trending audio and you were wearing one of your shirts, that's a great way to both entertain, but also showcase your products, right? This is a really cool way to showcase your products. Other ways to monetize are just, sharing user-generated content. So content that was submitted from a customer that they're wearing your product, or even taking product photos of your own, or using high quality mockups from somewhere like Etsy. There's a lot of ways to create product posts that actually convert. But you don't want them just being a boring generic mockup with a white background, because then it just looks like an ad and they don't usually look good, right? You want to show your products in the best light. So that's really the three types of content: content to grow, content to build your brand, and content to monetize. I think I'll take a break for a second here and hand it over to you, Kerry, because I could talk about this forever.
Yeah,
I love this topic. It's something I'm very passionate about.
It's definitely one of your expertise, like your strong points. So I don't have a ton to add. I would just kind of reiterate some things. Like, it definitely goes back to one of the most important things. And I talk about this a lot because it relates to everything in your business, but it goes back to the foundation of your online apparel business, which is your niche and who your customer is, and really knowing that thoroughly. And it's such a cliche thing, like with online business advice, like everybody's like, you got to have a niche and you got to know who's your who, and all these things. And I know it sounds so cliche because it's like said so much, but everything stems from that. It's going to lead your marketing efforts. It's going to lead your social media posts. It's how you connect with your audience, is when you know really, really clearly what is your niche and who is that customer. Is the customer young, old? What's their age? What's age group? What's their location? What's their occupation? Like, just knowing those things, it really goes back to that, because as Adrian said, all of your content should be related to that niche, and not only related to that niche, but specific to the type of customer that you're going for, right? And so that's really, really important. A couple other tips I would give is like, I would advise, somewhere, this isn't an exact science, but somewhere around 2 to 3 value-based posts to every one sales post, right? Like, you want to be providing more valuable content and less sales content. And you want to be, just kind of sprinkling in your products, especially in the beginning, as you're trying to build up that following. Another thing Adrian mentioned that I want to reiterate is using reels and short form video. That's still going to be the best way to reach a broad audience, or not a broad audience, but reach a bigger audience outside of who follows you. And then sprinkling in some of those things, like you said, like carousel posts where you can swipe through, or some more text-based type things, or photos. Those are going to be more to nurture your existing audience. And then being intentional to engage with people, not only your followers, but outside of your followers. Adrian kind of mentioned this as well. You're finding other accounts that have already built up an audience within your niche. you start engaging with them. You maybe start following some of those people that are following and engaging with posts. You start shooting some DMs out, connecting, commenting, liking posts, those kind of things. Like, you have to be active in that community, and just remember that, I think before you have built up any kind of following, you have to be more active. You have to like do the extra work to get people to come your way. And maybe in the future, like, that growth will come a little bit easier. I think it's said so many times in business, but we could just kind of point this to this specific subject. But like, going 1 to 1,000 is extremely difficult, but going 1,000 to 10,000 is a little bit easier. Going 10,000 to 100,000 is
100%.
actually pretty simple, right? It's like the 1 to 1,000, or, we sometimes talk about it in revenue, talking about in business revenue, like getting your first 6 figures. Oh my gosh, it feels like it's so hard to get there, getting that first 6 figures, but then going 6 figures to 1 million is like, oh, that was way easier than I thought it would, because you've already learned so much on that journey to, let's say it's 1,000 followers, that you can then look at the data, reassess it and reapply it to get to 10,000 followers way easier. And so you're going to have to do that extra work in the beginning. You're going to have to be intentional to be consistent. That's something we didn't really talk about. Maybe it wasn't mentioned yet, is consistency. Man, I think this is the biggest key. No matter what you're posting, is you've got to be consistent every single day of posting new content, being active in your stories, and replying and connecting with your followers and people outside of your niche. So if you're consistent with those things, you're posting more non-merch related content, which is really just merch that's causes an emotion for people. It makes them laugh. It makes them cry. It makes them get emotional. I think funny content is the easiest, right? Like, it's the simplest way to
Funny and
really
relatable.
connect
Low-hanging
with
fruit.
people, just funny content. But you're posting more of that valuable content than you are sales content, sprinkling in the sales content. You're being consistent. You're reaching out to people. And I think over time, you're going to see success if you just continue to optimize, continue to learn from what you're seeing, what's working, what's not working, making changes based off of that. And I think the best content strategy, as Adrian mentioned, is literally just finding other viral content, both within your niche and outside of your niche. Because I think there's two different types of content. There's within your niche that you can then kind of remake, tweak it, for your own business. But then there's also content outside of your niche that goes viral, that's trendy, that you can then apply to your niche. For instance,
Totally.
you've probably been on Instagram and you've seen like, everybody using the same Reels clip from CapCut or wherever. Like, they're using the same clip. You can take that same clip and apply it to pickleball or cats or whatever your niche is. And that's latching onto a broader trend, but within, bringing it within your niche, right? We talked about on a recent episode, like the Taylor Swift album coming out, right? And this big boom of everybody talking about Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl and all this. He's just been like in the news. I feel like it's dying off a little bit, Adrian. I'm hoping it's dying off a little bit, but we talked about that on a recent episode of like that's a broad world, almost like worldwide trend that you could then tweak it, bring it into your niche, and maybe create some content around it, create some designs around it, and those kind of things. So paying attention to trends within your niche, but then also the broader trends.
Yeah,
I think we should move
that's
on.
one. Okay. Let me just make one more point.
Go ahead.
I feel like I could talk about it forever, but I just want to make one more point. Cap cuts. One thing I really, really love about cap cuts. If you don't know what cap cuts are, they're essentially those little animations that you see overlaid over like images and videos and text. And sometimes it's like the guy from The Office holding a ghetto blaster, or there's a whole bunch of them. You can just Google CapCut. You'll see what it is. CAPCUT. But the thing I love about CapCuts is you can create original short form content that's funny and relatable. That, like, the funny and relatable content is the low hanging fruit. And so for the original question that was like, oh, how can I get content to actually attract my ideal customer? I usually recommend funny and relatable content, short form content. That is what's going to help you grow. But what I want to say is, just like you do product research, make sure you're also doing content research. Because if you want to create content that actually creates some sort of emotion, whether it is funny or whether it's sad or polarizing, whatever it is, like, go out there, put the time aside to find the content that's already doing that, and then use that as inspiration and repurpose it for your particular niche.
Yeah. Such good stuff. We've been on this for a while, so we're going to move on to number 2. Maybe we can I think that one is probably the longest one, to be honest, though. So let's move on to our
Dude,
second
it's
question. We'll see how
such a
many
loaded question.
of these we can get through. But
Yeah.
the second question I have, this is actually like 3 different questions. They're all kind of related. So we're gonna let me read these 3 questions, and then we'll come back and just break them down one by one. So this is actually question number 2 and question number 3 in my notes. Okay, would you be able to give us an overview of startup costs? That's number 1.
Mhm.
And a realistic time frame from deciding to pursue a print on demand business to launching and selling. That's number 2. And the number 3 follow-up question is, what does the monthly cost of running a print on demand business look like? Okay, so let's start with number 1. Would you be able to give us an overview of startup costs? Okay, I'll kick it off on this one. Let
Take
me
it
first
away.
say all 3 of these questions are very subjective. They are very specific to each person. And both Adrian and myself, we work with so many students in our programs. Man, I don't know about you, Adrian, but I see people that just like start up, boom, they're out of the gate. It's like boom, everything's going crazy. They're taking all this action. Then I see other people that it's not like it's not worse, or it's not better or worse. It's just they just take longer to go through the content, maybe in our courses, and implement, and all this kind of stuff. And some people also, like, they want to spend more upfront money and invest in different apps or more samples from their print on demand, and just these different things that can add up. Some people go ads first with their business, or some
Mhm.
people go organic social media first. There's different costs with that. So as far as an overview of startup costs, let me try to give you kind of a breakdown. Let's start with like a very minimal startup costs, right? This is called the Print on Demand Playbook Podcast. So let's start with print on demand. Print on demand doesn't cost anything to start up. Most print on demand companies, you can work with them for free, and you only pay for the items when you make a sale. So your startup cost is $0.00, right? Now you have to have an internet, and we're just going to assume you have internet, you have a laptop, or you have a computer, right? We're not including those costs, right? Everybody kind of, for the most part, is going to have that at home or at your work or wherever. So print on demand, free. Okay, let's talk about, you're going to need a platform to sell on. So we recommend Shopify. So we're going to go with that. Shopify is going to run $39 a month, or you can do it yearly. And when you do the yearly cost, it actually bumps it down a little bit, I think, to $29 a month if you pay for the whole year. Okay, so let's just say $39 a month. You're going to get right now, I believe, I'm just going to double check it at the time of recording this because it's always changing, but you can do a 3-day free trial. Okay, 3-day free trial. And then you're going to get your first month for $1. So this means you can do 33 days of Shopify for $1. And you also get a $50 credit on your account to use in the Shopify App Store. Okay. Let me just give a quick plug. If you want to get that promotion on my link, I'm an affiliate for Shopify. I love Shopify. So you can go to shirtschool.com/Shopify, shirtschool.com/Shopify. $1 for 3 days free, $1 for a month after that. So 33 days for $1, plus a $50 Shopify App Store credit. Shirtschool.com/Shopify if you want to support me. So Shopify, it's hard to add that as a startup cost because you're going to get 33 days for $1. So, I mean, like, Adrian, I mean, I'm not trying to like make it sound too good to be true, but like, you could definitely start up, build your whole store, build your products and everything. And like, there would only be like $1 of cost there. So like, as far as startup costs, $1 on Shopify, really. The next thing would be, in my mind, would be your designs. You have to get designs made. There are lots of free ways to get designs made. You can use free software like Photopea. There's software out there like GIMP that's free. And you can find, free elements here and there. But I think for most people, you're going to want to spend a little bit to get your first designs. You're probably not going to want to do them for free, just because you'll probably get better quality designs out of doing something paid. So I'll give you a few options for that. But I would say, if you're just doing like text-based designs, I mean, you could definitely get away with something like Photopea or GIMP for free, and using some free fonts, maybe Defont, and stuff like that. And you could definitely do some good designs with that. And if you're a experienced designer, you could probably get away with not spending any money on your designs. But for most people, if you want to make it a little bit easier and quicker, I would recommend either going with like Canva, maybe Place It. You could do. I mean, do you have any other quick suggestions on that as we're kind of going here? Like
Kittle.
Kittle
Canva.
would be a great
I
option.
would say Canva or Kittle. I
Yeah,
like Place It a lot for mockups. I don't like it as much for creating designs, just personal
they're too
preference.
simple. On Place It,
Yeah,
like they have a
yeah, and they're not as customizable and
yeah,
stuff. Like I just feel like it's not as good as a Canva or a Kittle in
yeah.
terms of creating like original designs. They
So
have
I
a
would
lot of
say
templates which are cool. But
Canva or Kittle, they're going to be around $10 to $15 a month. I want to say Canva's like $12.99 a month. Kittle's probably right around the
yeah,
same.
I think
So I want to
Kittle's
say,
15 a month for the pro plan,
yeah,
and then Canva is 12.99 a month. I
yeah.
believe those are the costs right now.
So $10 to $15 a month on Canva or Kittle, something like that. I think that's going to be either one of those is going to be a really great tool because not
Mhm.
only can you do a little bit more advanced designs, but they have a ton of templates in there. They have a ton of elements. They have AI features built in. I mean, there's like tons you can do with those two to create some amazing designs. So other than that, so we've got Shopify $1. We're going to say Canva or Kittle $15 to get your first month. Print on demand is going to be free to start. Other than that, to get started, you know, email marketing, that's going to be free to start. As you
Mhm.
building up your following, that'll become paid as you grow the following. There might be an app or two in the Shopify App Store that you want to take advantage of. That could be $5 to $10 a month, but nothing comes to mind that you absolutely need to get started. Social media is going to be free if you go the organic route. So, anyways, I'm going on and on, but I would say very minimal. Let's say somewhere between like $20 and $50 to get started, get some designs created, get your store up. As far as startup costs, am I missing anything, Adrian? Like, what comes to your mind?
What you said, Shopify,
Okay.
design software, email marketing, those are like the top things. The
Yeah.
first things I mean, production partner too, but we already talked about that. That
Yeah.
doesn't cost anything until you actually make sales.
So let's move on to the second part of this question. What's a realistic time frame from deciding to pursue a POD business to launching and selling? So again, like I don't want to make this sound like I don't want to make it sound like it's too good to be true or too simple. But like, I've done over the past few years, I've done like a 5-day challenge where, over 5 days, it's like, I kind of go through each step. And so some people do like launch and start selling within the first week to 2 weeks, right? That's going to be on the more ambitious side. I think a more realistic time frame, and let's just say to start bringing in your first sales and really start seeing some like return from this, I usually tell people somewhere between 30 and 60 days. Like I think that's going to be fairly
Yeah.
realistic because you're going to want to spend a little bit of time planning what's your niche, what are some examples of designs that you might want to model. You're gonna have to get your logo and your branding and those kind of things. You're gonna build out a Shopify store. That's gonna take some time. You're going to connect with your print on demand and create all the products, right? And so and then you're gonna set up your social media accounts, yada yada. So to actually launch, I would say 2 weeks to 30 days, and then to start bringing in your first sales, let's say 30 to 60 days total, somewhere in that time frame. Anything you want to add to that?
Yep. That's the goal
Yeah,
for my students. I say,
yeah,
like, I challenge every single one of you to launch your brand within 30 days. And some do it in a week, and some do
true.
it on day 30. Some do it later, and that's okay. Everyone's on their own journey. Everyone has their own things going on. But 30 days. And then my next challenge is make your first sale in 60 days.
There you go.
And for some people, they can, I mean, this is a totally unusual, like not a super common case. So I don't want anyone comparing their own journey to this student, but I've talked about it before. I did a solo episode where I talked about one of my new print on demand seller students who made $35,000 in sales in a 60-day period, and they're totally new. But so it's possible, but I don't want to be one of those gurus. Well, first of all, I don't want to be a guru at all. But secondly, I don't want to be one of those people that's trying to tell everyone, like, I want everyone to believe in themselves and I want to be inspiring to everyone, but I don't want to give you unrealistic expectations, which are going to make you feel bad about yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you that, everybody's doing $35,000 in sales in 60 days. That's crap. It's like
Yeah.
very rare for people to do that much in the first 60 days. But really, it came down to the strategy. Like the game changer for this student was they created a winning design really, really early that
Yeah.
they scaled up with paid ads. And you can do, if you come up with a winning design early, I would tell you to do the exact same thing. But for most students, it takes them longer to get the winning design that they can then scale up really quick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Kerry. I think those are very realistic and those are very in line with what I tell my students.
Yeah. And just to kind of, I guess, reiterate or expand on what Adrian was saying, like from my own experiences, I've had students that are, and similar to what you mentioned, they just take off right out of the gate. I've had students do the 5-day challenge, and before the end of the week, they're like, "Hey, I just got my first sales." Like before the end of the week, I'm like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" Like 5 to 7 days. I've had people come back, within the first 30 days and say, "I did $10,000 in sales." The first, like, amazing stuff. But then I've had students like a student that I had, his name's Josh, that he got his business to about $500 a month, and he was doing $500 or less for the first year. Like I think it was actually close to a year and a half. And he kind of couldn't break through that $500 mark. And then all of a sudden, as you mentioned, he had a winning design, right? And then scaled up to $30,000 plus months and was more consistent with that after that happened, right? Like, and had found a winning design, and then he used that winning design to create more winning designs, like kind of inspired by that one in a similar vein. And like, so like I've seen students like that where it takes a year and a half for them to just kind of figure it out. And so it's different for everybody. But I think a realistic goal, if you're ambitious and you want to go fast, shoot for 60 days to have those first, I would say 5 to 10 sales in the door. That's going to give you so much momentum, so much confidence going into the next 60 days. And you're just going to continue to grow from there. So
Totally.
The last part of this question, which is actually our third question, is what's the monthly cost of running a print-on-demand business? So this one is also very hard to really estimate. One of the biggest reasons for that is because everybody's marketing budget is going to be different depending on kind of how you're marketing, right? There's a lot of different marketing strategies, and that's a big cost. If you're running Facebook and Instagram ads or any kind of paid advertising, like that's probably going to be a pretty big cost, as opposed to there are lots of businesses that are working with influencers that are doing really well with organic, that are pushing their email marketing hard and content, and they may have very minimal marketing cost. So let's talk about, as we did before, let's talk about like the monthly reoccurring costs of maybe software and different things like that. I've done some breakdowns in the past. I would estimate this somewhere between like $60 and $100 per month for like a basic setup. If you have, let's say, Canva or Kindle, that's $15 a month. You have Shopify at $40 a month. So right there, you're at about 55. Let's say you have $30, $40 in Shopify apps per month. That's going to put you at, let's say, $85 a month, right? This is just like you can do less than this, but like you can do more than this. And maybe you're paying a little bit for your email marketing, $10, $15 a month. So somewhere around like $60 to $100 a month is going to be like your basic cost to like maintain all your software, right? Obviously, you can spend way more than this. And as your business scales up in sales, you're going to pay way more. These things are going to cost way more. But as you're starting out and you're at your first, the first stages of this, somewhere in that like maybe $60 to $100 a month mark is probably most commonly where I would say people are at. Then we talk about marketing. I mean, marketing is just like, if you're running paid ads, like it can be a lot, just depending on your strategy and the way that you go. But what I would say is we recommend when it comes to paid ads that you're running your ads in a smart way that you don't waste a ton of money. And so I think it is very important. And it's going to sound like a shameless plug, but it's not. I'm going to plug for both of us. What we do is related to all these questions is like one of the startup costs that you should be thinking about is investing in yourself and learning like proven strategies, learning proven, roadmaps and systems to actually have success. Because if you're doing it all on your own, you're just trying to learn from a bunch of random YouTube videos or Googling things, like it's not going to work like you want it to work, or it's going to take a lot longer. And so you can shorten that path by investing in coaching, investing in courses, books, things like that. And I'm not plugging our specific programs. I'm just saying that is something you should think about, because when we talk about a subject like running ads, right? I have seen so many people waste thousands of dollars when they're starting out, and they don't get anything from it. They don't get sales. They basically just waste that money. Kind of, you literally just gambling it like you would at the casino, because you don't know how the system works, how the algorithm works, the proper way to set up ad campaigns, and those kind of things. And so I just wanted to mention that if you're going to run, especially if you're going to run ads, please get some help. Like, learn, do some training, some learning before you run the ads, because it's going to save you a ton in the long run. And so we recommend running your ads smartly and not wasting money. And if you do that with a proven strategy, a proven kind of system, you're hopefully going to bring in some sales early on without spending a ton of money. And so you're going to recoup some of that cost. So my philosophy on marketing, like on marketing costs, paid ads, is always like, if it's break even or profitable, keep running those ads. Like, there's really no harm in doing that. You're bringing in new customers that will potentially buy from you later, bringing in sales, bringing in data, all these different things. And so I would continue to run those at break even or profitable, and potentially even scale those ads up if they're bringing in profits. So it's really hard to estimate ad, what it's going to run, what it's going to cost you monthly for ads. Any advice you want to offer there, Adrian?
Yeah. So definitely, I want to reiterate: take calculated risks. Don't gamble. You don't need to gamble. You can get validation. You can get free validation, which can take longer, or you can get immediate validation at really, really low advertising budgets.
Mm-hmm.
And you should only spend more if your validation is affirmed. If that small budget ad is break even or profitable, like you said, 100% agree with that. The other thing, in terms of investing in yourself, I think it's Warren Buffett who said the best investment you can ever make is in yourself. Think about it. Like, you have the power to create whatever you want. One of my favorite quotes is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. You just need to rely on yourself. That, to me, is a lot more, I don't know what the word is. Like, it's a lot more comfortable than relying on other people to do it for you, because they might not have the same level of motivation, right? So when it comes to that, not only courses, but also just coaching, you're going to have a lot of questions. I promise you, you're going to have a lot of questions, and just having a coach and a community to lean on, these things are so important, especially at the beginning. I feel like that's when they're the most important. Again, not trying to plug us, but this is something that I did early on in my journey, and it totally changed the game for me. The other thing I wanted to say is, generally what I tell people if they say, oh, how much of a budget should I realistically put aside? I say, put $100 a month aside every month. At the beginning, you're going to be able to take advantage of a lot of free trials, or, like Klaviyo, for example, the email marketing service provider that Kerry and I recommend. It's free for, I think, your first 500 contacts or something like that. So it's going to be cheaper at the beginning. But a lot of these things, as you grow or as your free trial comes to an end, you're going to have to start paying for them. And the way that I kind of explain this, because I think there needs to be kind of a mindset shift here. Some people might be like, what, $100 a month? That seems crazy to me. But just think about it like this, just to put things into perspective. Tell me a legitimate business that you can start in 2024 and build up profitably for $100 a month.
There isn't one. There isn't one.
I can't think of anything. And the thing is, even just think about this. How much would it have costed to start an apparel brand with, let's say, 30 different styles, or even 10 different styles, and unlimited
thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
You could have colors, you could have tons of different designs. Imagine like 40 years ago, how much it would cost to do exactly what you're able to do today for $100 a month. You
Even
need a
like
brick
20
and mortar
years ago
location.
or less,
What's that?
20 years ago, like it would
Sure. Yeah.
it would
You
have
would
been
need a
insane.
brick and mortar location, right? Which would probably be tens of thousands of dollars, at least a couple $1,000s. Then you'd have to spend probably tens of thousands of dollars just to stock the whole shop with
Mhm.
inventory. And then you'd have to pay staff. And then you'd have other overhead expenses.
Mhm.
It's totally unfeasible for most people. So for me, I think of $100 is like, this is insane that I can create a brand for $100. And obviously, as you grow, you're going to spend more on marketing because you want to scale up your winning designs. Like you want to grow profitably, right? But what you have to remember too is when you are growing at that rate, you're going to be getting a return on your investment, and all that overhead, that $100 a month, you should make that back tenfold and beyond when you have a winning design. Like you should be able to, that should just be baked into your revenue and you're still making a ton of profit. So, for example, it took me 8 months to get my first winning design when I started out, right? And I probably lost money for the first 6 months. But that wasn't what I was focusing on. I wasn't thinking, oh man, I'm just keep going in the red. I was thinking, I'm gonna make this work, and when I do, I'm gonna make all that money back and a whole bunch more. And that's exactly what happened. So there needs to be kind of like a mindset shift around it. I think $100 to start a legitimate business that you could build up and that you could, that you could potentially sell one day or just keep going for the foreseeable future. That seems like a steal to me. And if I did have a winning design, I would absolutely pour a whole bunch more money in to scale that up because you should be getting a return on that investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Let's move on to our fourth question. And these first three questions that we did, definitely more of the big questions. I think this one's we'll move a little bit quicker here. So this one's pretty simple question. Fourth question is about lifestyle mockups. They said, when using lifestyle mockups, should I use the same model on multiple products or a different model on each product? So my advice, and I definitely want to know if you agree. My advice would be to use a different model on each product. I think that you can use the same flat lay mockup. I think that's okay if you have maybe a couple different flat lay mockups as kind of like your standard mockup. But when it comes to lifestyle mockups, like I always find it, I'm struggling to find the word to say this, but I always find it just kind of like, ooh, like almost spammy or something when I go to a website and it's like the same body, like wearing all the different t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? Like
Like the
it's like
exact
a,
same image.
yeah, it's like the same mock-up of like a buff dude or something. And he's like, it's for all the products. You know what I mean? I'm always like,
Yeah.
so I think it looks more professional. I think it helps your brand. I think it just looks more trustworthy and more realistic, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously these are, digitally generated mockups, not necessarily AI mockups, but you're digitally putting the design on the mockup. I think it looks better if you have a different, not necessarily a different person. It could be the same person, but a different pose, a different lifestyle mockup, different picture on each product to use for your lifestyle mockup. Adrian, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I do think it breaks trust when you just have the same model,
It
exact
looks kind
same
of
image of
lazy.
the exact same model. Yeah, and it just breaks trust because then you immediately know it's fake, right?
Mhm.
Like before you're like, oh, that could be real. Like you should make them look realistic. You
Yeah.
want people to think, you want it to look like what it would actually look like on a
Mhm.
person wearing it, right? And you
Yeah.
can make them look really realistic pretty easily. But
Yeah.
when you have the same one over and over, it just, yeah, I agree. It can break some trust. I wouldn't do it, but I do agree with flat lay mockups. There's some really nice flat lay mockups, even some with just a white background, but they're a really nice flat lay of the actual product
Mhm.
itself. That I've bought on other places, not like the generic print on demand ones that I use as standard mockups for products.
Yeah.
And they look really good and they don't look the same as like if it was the exact same model every time. Um, Quick question. I think we skipped one thing. There was a question before that I think we skipped, and I can answer it very, very
Oh, go
quickly.
ahead.
Someone asked how long it takes to, from the time you decide to start your business to sell it. Do you remember that? There was one of the questions earlier, and I don't think we addressed that question, but I can give my own experience.
Are you talking about in the question number 2?
Yeah. Time
Oh,
frame from deciding to pursue a POD business to launching and selling. I couldn't tell if they were talking about selling products or selling that business.
I thought we'd answered it because we were talking about selling products. I don't think they were talking about selling the business,
Oh, okay,
but
okay. Okay, then we did answer that. I just wanted to make sure it was addressed.
yeah,
I
hey,
couldn't tell which one of us.
good day. It's just make sure we covered all our bases. I appreciate that. I don't think that question was in relation to selling the business. And we talked about, really being ready to sell within 30 days and getting those first sales within 60 days. I think that was kind of the time frame we
Yeah.
gave. So let's move on to question number 5. This one's also, I think a good one that maybe a lot of people have questions about. One of our listeners asked, how does print on demand work from a geographical point of view? As in selling internationally, how does that work logistically? So this is something that it can be really confusing because there's people all throughout the world, and these print on demands are also all throughout the world. And so this can be very confusing. So let me just try to break this down a little bit and kind of explain, because there's a lot of different ways that print on demand providers handle this, or a lot of different ways that it works. So let's talk about the most simple and kind of the first way that this works is print on demand company is located in a certain country and they only print and ship in that country, right? Like there are some, I would say, smaller print on demands that maybe are just going to have one print facility, or they're working with a print provider, like a third party print provider, and they're really only servicing that one country. Now, a lot of these print on demands will ship internationally, but when they do that, they're going to be, let's just as an example, let's say you go with print on demand in A, and they're located in the U.S. and you sell you sell a product to a customer in the U.K. That print on demand provider is going to print the item, and they're going to ship it from the USA over to the UK. I don't recommend that in most cases if you can avoid it, because that's going to incur really high shipping costs for you and your customer. And it's also going to potentially have customs costs, because you are going country to country, which can be costly for your customer. And so you don't want a t-shirt that costs $25 US dollars to end up costing $50 by the time it gets to your customer, because the shipping was $15 to $20 and the customs charges and these kind of things. So that's kind of like scenario A, is you have a print on demand that is printing, they're located in a country, they're printing in that country, and they're mainly only servicing locally to that country. Then,
can I say add one thing to
yeah,
that? So, like, not to mention everything you mentioned, yes, but also like not to forget how long international shipping can take compared
absolutely.
to domestic
Great point.
shipping. So
Great point.
it can lead to a worse customer experience. Not only are they paying higher prices, but they can be waiting a really long time. Like if you're shipping from like California to Australia, that's going to take longer than if you're shipping from California to Arizona, right? On top of
Yeah.
all the other downsides.
Then you're going to have the next scenario. I'm trying to figure out how I kind of want to say this, but this is probably the least common scenario, I would say. But it's when a print on demand company is kind of headquartered in a certain country and they have fulfillment centers throughout the world. Now, what I'm really talking about here is when these are owned by the print on demand company, there's really only going to be very limited amount of print on demand companies that are going to like own their own fulfillment centers, and they're going to be, have multiple fulfillment centers throughout the world. This is very uncommon. So, but there is company, I think like Printful owns, a few
Printful has a
facilities.
lot of their own facilities around the world. Yeah.
Throughout the world. And so but it's going to be less common. And so basically what's going to happen there is when your customer orders an item, no matter where they're at in the world, the item's going to be printed and shipped at the closest fulfillment center to the customer. I think the only drawback here is that usually if a print on demand has this kind of setup, they're still going to have somewhat limited amount of fulfillment centers. So let's just say they own like 10 fulfillment centers. That's really not going to cover like that's not going to cover a huge portion of the world. It's better than just being in the one country for sure, like 100%. It's going to relieve some of those issues, but it's still, in some cases, depending on where the customer's at, it could still be a somewhat long, shipping time or whatever. But that is going to be one scenario. I think the last scenario to mention is the most common when it comes to international shipping. If you go with the print on demand that does offer international shipping as kind of a benefit, the most common way that that's going to happen is the print on demand provider is going to partner with local print providers in each country. And so when they get an order through that print on demand, it's going to be routed to the closest print provider to your customer. And these are typically not owned by the print on demand company. So, it might be Joe's print shop down the street, and the print on demand company might be located in Australia, and Joe's print shop's over here in Texas, right? And when they get an order from somebody in the US, they'll just route the print on demand will just route that order over to Joe's print shop in Texas. They'll print it there and ship it out there. And this is really, I think, for me, and you may disagree, Adrian. For me, this is probably the best scenario, because by these print on demands partnering with these different print on demand providers, it provides the most coverage throughout the world where you can get local printing. It's going to lower shipping costs. It's going to lower carbon emissions. So it's better for the environment. It's going to lower shipping times. And it's just the most efficient way to do it. The big drawback here is that print on demand doesn't have direct control over the quality, because they are outsourcing the printing to a print provider. So they're not in direct control of the quality. And that could be, an issue. But I think those are the most common scenarios with how international shipping works. So if you're wanting to sell internationally, like, you definitely want to consider, when you're choosing a print on demand, that you don't choose a print on demand that's just located in one country that doesn't have print providers throughout the world. Anything you want to add there, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, the only company that I would consider working with in 2024 that isn't like a network of print providers like Gelato and Printify. They're a network. They're essentially software companies that bring together a bunch of networks of print providers all over the world that will fulfill for you. But the only company I would consider in 2024 that's not a network like that is Printful, because they do have, they're the biggest in terms of like owning their own facilities, and they do have quite a bit of coverage. They've been expanding. And I do like, you get consistent quality. You can usually offer the products in the catalog in every country. So there definitely are some benefits to that. But I mean, it's hard to beat the network, like the Gelato and the Printifies. Those are like my top three favorites. But those ones have way more facilities than Printful, even though Printful has a decent amount.
I'm looking at the website right now. It looks like they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've got 7 fulfillment centers. 2 are located in the U.S., Charlotte, North Carolina, and Dallas, Texas. Then they've got Tijuana, Mexico, which says branding materials only, and same thing with Charlotte, branding materials only. Then they've got Toronto, Canada, Birmingham, UK, Riga, Latvia, Barcelona, Spain. So those would be their.
I think they have Australia, don't they?
7.
I thought they had one.
It's not listed on their website.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But those are the ones I see on the website, on the printful.com/warehousing-fulfillment.
Okay.
But it's huge though. Like, I definitely agree. Like, it's huge.
Right. Yeah. But then you look like a Printify or a Gelato. And I mean, it's hard for Printify to compete, because all they need to do is make relationships with print providers around the world, and then connect their software and add them to the catalog, add their products to the catalog, right? Whereas somewhere like Printful, they would go and build a warehouse and employ a bunch of people. And it's like a much more investment heavy financially for them, and a lot more time consuming. So.
Yeah, and just for reference, Gelato has production in 32 countries worldwide, and those are third party. Those are local print providers in those countries. So, there's definitely pros and cons, drawbacks to either scenario. But logistically, that's what you want is you want the items to be printed as close to the end customer as possible. That's going to be the
Yeah.
most beneficial.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
gonna lead to the best customer experience, shorter
absolutely.
shipping times, reduce customs fees,
Yeah,
and yeah, just reduce the shipping costs as well. I'm looking on Printful. I see 11 facilities here, 2 in Australia, 1 in Melbourne, and 1 in Brisbane, which is great because
nice.
Australia is a huge market. Then there's 1 in Japan, which is great for Asia coverage. Then you've got the Birmingham, UK, which is great for England, which is another massive market for print on demand. Then you've got Barcelona, Spain, which is great for Europe, Riga, Latvia, Toronto, Canada. Canada is another huge market. And then, of course, the US with the 2 facilities, and Mexico in Tijuana, right on the border of the US. So
What did
those
you what did
products
you
can
click
easily
on?
be shipped
Just out of
to you.
out of curiosity, what did you click on over
Uh,
there? Or did
I'm
you
just
search?
on I Googled Printful Australia, and then when I scrolled down to the bottom, near the bottom, it showed a map of their facilities. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
That's odd. I wonder if I was looking at an old page. Okay, I see them all right here. Okay. Yeah. One, two,
yeah.
three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 11 on there. Awesome. Very cool.
It's interesting. Some are listed as partner facilities. So what I'm wondering if like I'm wondering if those are like they're creating a network, kind of like Printify and
Yeah.
Gelato, to get more coverage around the world because they're seeing these other companies grow so fast and offer so many products and have so many print facilities, and they're like, I mean, it would be hard for them to keep up with those companies. So that would actually
Because
make a lot of sense,
these warehouses can be massive. Like it's a lot
right?
to like build or buy a warehouse and all that, staff it and all that stuff. But it is interesting
Yeah,
because I
4
saw
say partner facility, and then
what
7 don't say partner facility, which
yeah,
makes
and
me think that they're starting to create a network.
the 7 that aren't a partner facility are the ones that I saw on a different page. So I didn't
Right.
see the only ones I wasn't seeing were the ones that were partner facilities. So that is interesting. All right. You ready for the last question of the episode?
Let's rock and roll.
All right, last question of the episode. A little bit of a longer question, but I think it's a good one. Says, I am just getting started with my t-shirt business and am preparing to make my Shopify site public. Let's go. However, I am nervous about selling shirts for which I don't yet have a sample in hand. I have ordered 6 samples of my shirts so far from Printful and have been pleased with the quality, but I can't afford to order all 30 of my designs before they go on sale to the public. Do you advise getting a sample of each shirt before selling, or is a handful of samples sufficient to ensure that your designs are the right size and placement? I'm terrified of selling 100 shirts that have some kind of quality issue and then having to eat the cost. Okay. Great question. I know this is a
Such a good question.
super, this is like, what's that?
Such a good question.
It's
We
such
get
a,
this question all the time.
such a
Yeah.
struggle for new sellers. I totally get it. It's probably one of the top things I talk about is just quality. So let's address the end there because they said, I am terrified of selling 100 shirts that have some kind of quality issue and then having to eat that cost. So number one, anytime there's a quality issue, especially you mentioned like things like the placement of the design or maybe a low quality design, anytime there's a quality issue, your print on demand provider, in this case Printful, is going to cover that issue. They're going to ship out a replacement as long as it's something that was on the fault of the print on demand company. So if it's a placement, it's a quality of print, bad quality print, if it's crooked, if they sent the wrong size, if they sent the wrong blank, those are things they're going to cover for you. So you are never going to have to eat that cost unless it was something that was on the fault of the customer or on the fault of your business. So for example, the customer ordered the wrong size shirt and they want a replacement, that would be something you would either have to cover that cost or make the customer pay some kind of difference, whatever your policy is. But to relieve some stress, hopefully, your print on demand is going to cover the cost on those quality issues that were their fault. The other part of this question, the main part of this question, you've got 30 designs. Do you need to order a sample for all of them or maybe just a handful of samples to feel confident in the print on demand provider? I'm going to let you take this one, Adrian. How do you feel about this?
Definitely the latter.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree.
I've never bought samples of every single design. The goal should be to order a sample. I would say order more than one. Like I like, that you are ordering samples, and I always recommend people do. So you've ordered 6 samples, amazing. That would be enough validation for me. If I ordered 6 samples and they all came and I was pleased, I'm good. Like I am, let's go live. Let's start making sales. I would
Mhm.
not order samples of every single one. Definitely not.
Yeah, totally agree. I was gonna say, I would say somewhere between like 2 to 3, maybe 5 at the most. So I think you got 6 here. I think you're good to go. Um, I think that there are issues in our business. Try to keep this brief, but there are issues in our business that can, like, you wake up in the middle of the night like stressing about. For me, just I guess to be a little bit, transparent here, like it's customer service issues. It kind of like was mentioned here, that like people are dissatisfied with the products or something. Like I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, like, oh my gosh, is there 100 emails in the customer service inbox that like of dissatisfied customers and my business is going to close? Like those are the things that I stress out about. And this is kind of one of those things is like, what if I launch my business? What if I do have a winning design? What if I sell 100 in the first week and they all get returned? And it's like, it can be very, very stressful. You have to put that aside. You have to take imperfect action. You have to do your due diligence, which you have done here of testing 6 samples and you were pleased with the quality. And you have to just press the launch button and just
Mhm.
go for it. And just remember at the end of the day, like, you know, I don't want to say this. Um, I guess what I would say is you're going to run into issues. There are going to be issues, but you're going to work through those. It doesn't matter what kind of business you have, whether it's print on demand, whether it's you're a plumber, you're going to have issues. It's the nature of being an entrepreneur. And, I think entrepreneurs are the best problem solvers in the world. I mean, it's really true. And literally, if you
Mhm.
want to boil our job down, it's like as entrepreneurs, we wake up every day and we just solve problems. Like that's all we do all day is just solve problems and figure out, how to help more people. And that's a problem we have to solve, right? How to reach more people. It's a problem you have to solve. And so we just solve problems all day. We put out fires. And so you're going to have issues, but you've done your due diligence. You just got to press the launch button, go for it, trust the print on demand, and just, go after it.
Yeah, well said. I want to encourage you to kind of focus on, you know, having a growth mindset about this over a scarcity mindset. And like, I definitely struggle. I go back and forth between growth and scarcity mindset. I think a lot of entrepreneurs do,
Sure. I
but
do definitely.
the mindset shift where it says, I am terrified of selling 100 shirts that have some kind of quality issue. You sold 100 shirts.
Let's
You know what
go.
I would do? Like, congratulations. So first of all, if you're selling those shirts very slowly, if you're selling one a day or one every couple of days, you're going to find out way before you get to 100 sales that there's some quality issues. And you can immediately address that with print on demand. The nice thing is you didn't buy 1,000 defective products and now what do you do with them? You just have to discard them and eat the costs, right? With print on demand, like if it is their fault, you're not paying anything for it. And a lot of those customers you can actually recover by giving them a good experience. And a lot of them will become cheerleaders. We've got reviews from customers where they're like, oh, my first item came defective, but they were really quick to help me out and they were really helpful and they replaced it really quickly. And I'm excited to make another order. You can turn these people into cheerleaders for your brand still. But the other thing I would say is if you did sell 100 really quickly, you probably have a winning design. I would immediately address the issue and then I would sell a freaking 100,000. All
Yeah, let's
right.
go.
Because if you've got a winner, you can scale that up and you're going to make way more than 100 sales. And remember, you still have an opportunity to please those customers who didn't have the greatest experience. But this is kind of like thinking of the growth mindset. Solve the problem for the 100, but if you have a winning design, now you focus on making 1,000 sales and they're not defective. This is
So
kind
good.
of like, Yeah, I hear it a lot from people. They're preemptively kind of really nervous or scared about something that I'm thinking to myself, this would be a really good problem to have. They're
True.
like, what if I have a winner and then, the print on demand company runs out of inventory? I'm like, well, you have a lot of options there. First of all, they rarely run out of inventory of their best selling the best selling products like a Ballot Canvas 3001. It does happen from time to time, but there are a lot of things you can do in the meantime. But I mean, this is such a good problem to have. And I would never let a Cinderella scenario like that hold me back from taking action. I would focus on the fact that I have a winning design, and I'm going to scale the hell out of it as quickly as possible and make as many sales as quickly as possible,
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, that's going to wrap up our listener Q&A episode. We really appreciate your questions. And as I mentioned earlier, I just want to echo again, if you want to send us a question or just say, hey, the best way to do that is just to shoot us a direct message on Instagram. I am at Kerry Egler, KerryEgler, and Adrian is at Ecom Legends Academy. And you can find both of us on Instagram. Follow us, connect with us. We love to hear from you. And we just want to thank you for listening to this episode and being a listener of the podcast. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Stay awesome. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. Thank you so much in advance. Stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.